There are those days when I'm 2:30 a.m. and the alarm clock goes off. I'm like, oh, do I really want to drive to the Swatch again? And the answer is yes, you do want
Yes.
to go again, even though it may be a collegiate 14er, which we've kind of bagged on occasionally, or you may be too tired, or maybe you haven't had your oatmeal yet. But whatever it is, the answer is yes, you do want to go again. You may not have a chance to do it another time. Welcome to the Greens and Blues Sports Inter podcast. This episode, Zach runs through the regrets of his youth. I realize my youth has long passed me by, and we work through things that we wished we knew when we started our 14er journeys. Zach, how are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, Eric, I am doing fantabulous. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm still basking in the fun conversation we had with Will Erickson last time about winter hiking, and we actually have a little snow now. So, I
Oh,
mean, when we talked with Will, I don't think we had very much, but now we've had something come through. So, looking forward to maybe tackling a winter peak with you in the next couple weeks if you're coming out. Yeah, I think that
yeah.
was the plan.
I don't know how wintry it is, so I don't know what it's going to look like. A lot of what I'm seeing is that ridges are already pretty bare. So I think we could pick an easy one and get a snowflake pretty easy here if we wanted to, Eric, but
One of those cheap snowflakes.
a cheap snowflake. It's been a weird winter. I'm already gearing up to maybe do some. My dad, if he's listening to this, would roll over. Well, he's not. He's very much with us, but he's not going to roll over in his grave, but maybe he's going to roll over in his bed. I'm thinking about doing some mid-May hiking, perhaps
Uh,
in the Sangres in New Mexico or Southern Sangres in Colorado. There's been that little snow. I got up the other morning, got up early, threw on my pack with 30 pounds in it, and went and huffed it around the neighborhood. I went and got my daughter some donuts.
dude.
So yeah, uh, they may think I'm homeless at the donut shop. They kind of give me that look like, why is this guy carrying a giant backpack into the donut shop?
30 pounds, all your possessions are in your backpack with you as
Yeah,
you walk in.
yeah. She kind of looks at me with pity, like, do you need to eat in here? No, I'm gonna go back to my house. But so it is interesting times to live in that I may be doing mid-May. Usually the rule was always not until June 20 something
Oh,
or
like late June. Oh, yeah.
late June. July 1 was always the when you
Mm,
start hiking time. And now I'm
yeah.
like, I might do a backpacking trip to New Mexico in mid-May.
Yeah.
So
You could.
yeah. Anything you want to add, Eric, to how things are going in your neck of the woods?
No, you summed it up well.
This is late spring. In fact, kind of already looking forward to the summer when most people actually start hiking.
Yeah.
And for people that are going to start hiking or that maybe dipping their toe a little deeper into the water here, we thought it might be fun to reflect on things we wish we knew about hiking so that could either, if you already know these things, just laugh at our mistakes or laugh at our folly, which is perfectly legitimate as a source of comedy, or you could listen to us and be like, oh, I need to do that too. And you don't have to wait till you're in your late 40s to figure it out. You can learn from our collective almost 100 years of wisdom here on the podcast. That's our service to you. We wanted to bring convey that wisdom today.
100 years of combined. I've lived for over half of that, almost 100 years, and I'd never thought of it that way. And I can't unhear that. So
Is
I'm not
that-
sure. I'm not sure how to react to that.
I mean, we add up to 96 right now.
Yeah,
Sometime
indeed.
around July, we will add up to 97. I'm not saying who's the greater contributor to that, but it's not me. So,
Yeah, I think we all know the answer to that one. Things that we wished we knew. So I've got, I think, four on this list. When I first started hiking, which is 16 years ago now, it would have been nice to know these things.
yeah.
I didn't have the manual, I didn't have the Roach book, or I didn't you look at 14er.com that much to kind of get these primers. Now I wish I would have known back then. So I don't know if yours fit that kind of a mold as well, or if they take a different slant.
They're slightly different, but still, it's funny. You and I are very different in terms of how we've come to hiking. I came
Mm,
to it as a kid, was literally thrown into a backpack when I was a year old, and I started hiking as soon as I could walk. And I've spent most of my adolescent and adult life hiking, not most of it peak bagging. So
yes.
I come from a little bit different place, but I think regret and things that we wish we knew are perennial, and I think
Mm,
they're shared. Even though I grew up hiking, I think the things that I'm going to say probably resonate with the things that you're going to say
yeah.
because there's just things that you don't know till you know when you're a hiker.
Yeah.
So
Great call.
I have five, Eric, which makes for the nice even number of nine things we wish we knew.
Such a great number.
Couldn't squeeze out an extra one for 10, but
On that note, do you want to kick us off since you've got an additional one to go through?
yeah, it's like the bookends of regret for this. So I can start it off with that. This is a simple one, but I've kind of said this at different points in the podcast. Boy, I wish I had my nutrition kind of locked in a little bit better as a hiker early
Yeah.
on. I grew up with as a kid just hiking, and we would have like oatmeal packets for breakfast in the morning.
Oh,
And those are basically equal parts oatmeal and sugar. I didn't know what the term was. I would bonk pretty quick on those
yeah.
things because you just burn through that sugar so fast. But I was a kid, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But well into my adult life, that was kind of still the template for me in terms of how I fueled my body when I was hiking. Then I went through my weird phase where I ate like a giant fatty quiche
Your
slice.
quiche. Love those stories. In the
uh,
car, you're driving in the car,
dri- dri-
slobbing through a piece of quiche.
just a gut bomb, and then various incarnations of oatmeal. And I've kind of settled on oatmeal, but much heavier on protein and good fats. That works for me, but I think I missed out on some good hikes because I didn't feel good
Mm,
or because I got halfway and I lost all my juice. And I really wish I had learned those things earlier about how my body needs to be fueled for not just for the first 2 hours of a hike, but for an entire day, a 12-hour day,
mm.
and or 13 or 14-hour day or however long it is. So I wish I had figured that out sooner. And I wish I had been much more intentional about it and wish I had sought out the advice and wisdom of other people that knew those things better than I did.
Mm.
That's my thing I wish I knew is just an attention to fueling my body.
That's a great way to kick us off. Seriously, I think here I am almost 50. I still don't know if I know how to do that properly. I'm just randomly eating.
From what I can tell, it consists of copious amounts of gorp for you.
It's trail mix and that's it pretty much.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. Eric can I hike with Eric. You can go without breakfast in the morning sometimes, or you can eat very minimal. For me, I've got to have breakfast. And then I don't eat a lot throughout the rest of the day. I know we joke about how much food I eat, but I really don't eat a lot for the rest of the day. So I've got to fuel my body right in the beginning. And I think that's one thing I'm working on is I probably need to eat more as I go on throughout the day because I get tired.
Yeah.
And I used to like after a hike and I knew I'd be hiking the next day, I'd go have like a burger and a beer and I'd basically replace the fats and the carbs, but then I would dehydrate myself and I've gotten where I stopped doing that too. So
Yeah.
things you know. Well, Eric, what's your first thing that you wish you knew?
The first thing I've got, man, I wish when I first started hiking, I wish I knew the value of the 13ers. I think the first dozen and a half or so mountains that I ever summited in Colorado were all 14ers. That's where my focus was. I didn't, what is a 13er? I didn't care. And I think when you talk with people, the 14er community is a fun community to connect with if you get to go to a
Hmm.
meetup or whatever. The bond that you have with someone over, oh, hey, I've done that 14er too. That's a special bond to have. ramp that up even more so when it's a 13er, and because those are so rarely hiked in comparison to the 14ers. And so we've kind of waxed on about all of the benefits of the 13ers and just how much adventure there is. And if you want solitude, you'll find it there easily. But just the ability to talk with people and share your stories over 13ers is really, it's kind of a special thing. And I think also there's a level of curiosity that goes with 13ers as well, partially because there's just so many of them. Like if you're driving down 285 or
Yeah.
70, you're going to see a good number of 13ers. And I think through something like Bard Peak, which the Coonies have laid out very well how to summit Bard Peak along with Parnassus and Engelmann. And there's another one in there. I can't think
Robeson.
of. Robeson, thank you. You've done, I think, three of those, right?
Yeah, and then I bonked out in between the third and the fourth, and
Oh no.
just
The Coonies really lay out really well on climb13ers.com that there's like they call it a possible descent of Bard directly south from that summit towards I-70. And as you're driving along I-70, you can see Bard Peak. And so many years ago when I started hiking, I could have looked at that and said, "Yeah, I wonder if that would go." But I just didn't think of it because, I was looking for Grays and Tories, or I was looking for Quandary or something like that. So the level of adventure and curiosity and fun kind of ramps up when you consider the 13ers in addition to the 14ers. So that's again, we've talked about it in previous episodes. I wish I would have gotten into the 13ers earlier, but here we are. I get to enjoy them now.
I mean, my delay was even longer than yours. I didn't hike
Mm,
my first 13er. Here I was a kid that grew up with a dad that had hiked a lot of 14ers. I didn't start really hiking the 13ers until my 30s. I started hiking 14ers when I was 10. So
yeah.
there was quite the delay for me. And yeah, I'm with you. I wish I had found them earlier. It checks off all the little mental, psychological, and spiritual boxes that I have for hiking, which is it's adventure, it's solitude. There's a sense of wonder still. Yeah, the curiosity that you talk about. Like, if I want to go do Chavano, I don't even research the route, to be quite
You
frank.
probably don't have to.
I just roll up to the trailhead and I just go up the widest trail. Now, if it's
Yep.
like a class 3 or class 4 one, I'm going to have to do a little work on that. But for the 30 some odd class 2 14ers, it's great. I love it. There's never a bad day in the mountains, but it's different.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I wish I had discovered those earlier as well.
Yeah. Well, what do you got next on your list, Zach?
Kind of in line with that, something I didn't start doing as well until my 30s, which is hiking alone.
Mm,
I always hiked with a buddy and had so many good memories of that. I hike with you, like a lot of people we've talked to, like Laura Clark and others.
mhm,
It was really liberating to hike alone and to feel okay about it. I think there's some part of it that's just a level of maturity and a feeling of security. Like I'm good, like I'm gonna be all right. I didn't start doing that until probably I was 30 years old. But when I started
mm,
doing it, I realized, oh my gosh, I wish I had been doing this all along. Like
yep.
I could do it on my own terms. I'm really, really happy hiking alone. Happy hiking with a friend too, but it gives me something that I need, which is just some time to work through whatever's going on in my head. You probably shouldn't hike alone when you're a teenager, and you shouldn't hike alone. I probably didn't need to hike alone in college. That's when I needed to be with friends. But
Mm,
I wish I had spent more of my 20s hiking alone and doing it and learning how to be independent and autonomous and self sufficient and be okay with it. I would go hike alone, but I never felt quite right about it.
mm,
But then when I started hiking alone and I was like, no, I'm gonna be good with this, that really opened up a lot of things for me. So
mm. That's cool.
you've kind of started hiking alone a lot more recently, haven't you, Eric?
I have, and what's funny is that was actually, or a variant of that was actually going to be one of my things I wish I knew as well, is just the joy of hiking alone. And I was considering kind of framing it up maybe a little differently as almost like a paradox in that I love hiking with friends like yourself, like with Travis, like with Rachel's brother Justin. I love that, and I also love meeting new people on the trail
Mm-hmm.
or meeting someone new off of the .com to hike a 14er if I don't feel like I can do it by myself. But yeah, in recent years, I've also enjoyed the ability to have the confidence to say, yeah, I can do Grays and Tories by myself. I can do
Yeah.
Sherman on my own. I can do kind of branching more into, okay, well, this 13er doesn't have as much beta, but I think I can do it by myself too. And so, yeah, just the sense of adventure, the sense of curiosity, what's around the bend. I'm going to find out. And, if I'm with a friend, great. If I'm not, I'm going to enjoy finding out what's around the bend anyway. So I don't know if that takes us down from 9 to 8 things that we wish we knew, or 8.5 maybe.
We've duplicated each other. I mean, if someone wanted to start hiking alone, what advice would you give them? Maybe this is a kind of add-on to that.
That's a good call. I think there's no way to start doing it until you start doing it. So, I
Hmm.
mean, you kind of have to have the gumption and the willingness to take that risk to do it yourself. We've talked about being prepared, having the 10 essentials, how do you get ready for a hike? All of those things, maybe ramp those up a little bit in terms of just understanding what's the route going to look like, having a GPX track or a topo map or a route description or something, just going and doing it. I
Yeah.
think that would be kind of where I would start. It took me honestly, it took Rachel getting me a beacon to really have the final, okay, well, if things really go south, I at least can make the call and get help if I really need to. So that was probably the last hump to get over for me to feel comfortable in saying, okay, now I can really do it. I don't even know if you need to go all the way to that, but
It
I
doesn't
think
hurt.
it doesn't hurt for sure. And especially, I mean, any mountain can go south. I mean, just look at my Pennsylvania mountain experience in the wintertime, but once you have enough mountains under your belt, just go do it would be my thought. But I don't know. What would you add to that, Zach?
Yeah, I think, and maybe don't go all in and, go do a 18-mile day with no trail
Golf.
right as your first solo. I think if you want to start soloing, way to do it is go to a 14er alone and start and just try to hike that alone. And there'll be other people along the trail. You chat with them and maybe you don't. And then the next thing to do is go do a 13er on your own on a weekend and maybe you run into somebody and pick one that you know is easy and that the route finding is easy and just see how comfortable you feel in your own shoes. The thing about hiking alone is that you're in your head the entire time.
Yeah.
If you're good with that, if that's a space you want to be in, it's great. I should add, Eric and I do not hike with headphones on. It's really just you, your thoughts, and the sounds around you. But I know some people hike with headphones on, and that maybe mitigates a bit of that anxiety or loneliness too. So, yeah, I'd say that's probably the best way. Is I've gotten to where I go on multi-day backpacking trips by myself, but
Yeah.
I think the soft start is to just kind of dip your toe in a little bit.
Yeah. Make friends with the marmots and the pika up there too, if you're so inclined. But
Yeah, well, if you're John Muir, you make friends with the trees.
that's just right.
Just talk to one or two at a time. So, Eric, I know I just kind of stole one of yours, perhaps, or I got out in front of one of yours. Do you have one you want to add, or do you want me to go to my next one?
I think you should go to your next one, Zach, because you did not steal mine. I think you came up with a nice add-on to
Oh, okay.
to my. We'll go from 9 down to 8, and then maybe back up to 9. I think with what you added on.
Okay,
Yeah.
989.
Yeah.
So,
See if there's some calculus in there.
this is going to kind of dovetail with my food one. Man, I really wish I had done, especially this is in my late 30s when I started to live in Oklahoma. I've faced a challenge that maybe some Colorado hikers don't face, which is I'm coming up from like basically 1,000 feet in elevation.
Hmm.
I really wish I had done in my mid 30s a little bit more cardio in the off season. I think my acclimatization's a little harder if I don't do cardio. And I think last year, where I had been running more and riding my bike more, I felt better.
Yeah.
Um, Boy, I wish I had done that because along with the food one, there's been some peaks where I've done one, but I could have gotten two or three.
Mm.
Or I got, 80% of the way and I just felt like, today's not my day. Or just kind of, or I got to the top, but I didn't feel good doing it. I was like, I'm just pushing it and I'm struggling. I wish I had been more fit, to be honest. And
Mm.
instead of, I've always been exercisey, but I think sometimes I focus too much on lifting weight and not enough on moving my own weight. So I wish I had done more of that so that I could acclimate a little easier.
Interesting. Okay. Because I know you do run, you run with your daughter, and I know you bike a lot. So, and like you said, you once the season allows, you throw on your pack, you throw 30 pounds in there, you get some kitty litter in there, and then you kind of go around the neighborhood and the donut store and all that. So, I mean, it surprises me to hear that it almost sounds like a regret to some extent.
Yeah. I didn't start doing that until 5 or 6 years ago. I started
Okay.
riding my bike during COVID. I started running 3 years ago when my daughter was in a program called Girls on the Run. My cardio used to consist of 20 minutes on the treadmill at the 5 incline at, 3.8 miles per hour. And I thought that was plenty.
Hmm.
And now I'm like, oh man, I could have been pushing it so much more on that end. I really wish I had done that. I wish I
Hmm.
had maintained that a little better. I think my profile as a hiker would be a lot better if I had been doing that.
Hmm. Okay.
So, Eric, now we're on to your next one. Hopefully, I didn't steal it because you've always been a runner, so I knew I wasn't going to take that one from you. What you got?
No, no. This one's going to be a rather strange one, actually, because in the era of YouTube and social media, there's pictures and videos all over the place of lots of different mountains in Colorado and all over. But I wish that I had, on my earlier hikes, taken more pictures and videos of particularly the difficult sections or
Mm,
the difficult looking sections that lay ahead of me. And I wish this for a couple different reasons. I think one, if I had done more of that, I think I could look at those and kind of see where I've come from and just see how
yeah,
much I've developed as a hiker, seeing where my confidence has developed. But also, I think there's value in having documents like that from your own perspective. I think in particular of Long's Peak, which was my first 14er, and Middlebrook, Roach, others talk about what often is felt to be the hardest move on that entire keyhole route, which was this chalkstone, which kind of sits at the very top of the trough and kind of at the beginning of the narrows. I don't remember it at all. And now when I go back and try to look for, if I just Google Chalkstone Longs Peak and look for videos, there's nothing. No one has a video of this place, even though it's considered to be the hardest move on this entire class 3 14er in Rocky Mountain National Park. I mean, I've found videos that have it, but they're kind of buried somewhere in the video.
hmm,
So having had some kind of a document from my own perspective so that I can kind of go back in my own memory and say, oh, yeah, that's what that was like. Or, videoing along the Narrows, which is it literally is pretty narrow and there's all this steep drop off on the one side. I don't remember details about this, but I remember making some pretty hairy moves on those narrows. And if I had had a video before I started hiking it, I could go back in my memory and say, "Oh, that's okay, that's what I had to have done." And
yeah.
I actually did it. Like I can have the confidence to say, man, I was scared to poop, but I did it. So as weird as it might sound, I think there would have been value in having more visual documents to kind of describe some of the things that I've encountered on the mountains. So
I
I
think
don't know.
if you had done that too, I think there would be this positive post hoc effect where you would go in and you would look at stuff like that and you'd be like, why was I freaking out about that?
Mm,
It might be the case because, you are a much better hiker now than you were then.
mm,
And, from your perspective now, you could go back and be like, that, why was I worried about that? That has its own value for helping you in future hikes. Like, the things that I think are hard now may not be as hard as I think they are.
sure.
So, yeah, it's really interesting to talk. I do find there's a real deficit. Well, a lot of the time that's natural. When you get into hard stuff, your first instinct isn't, well, let me, or at least us Gen Xers, my first instinct isn't, let me take a picture of this. It's,
Right.
I need to get through this.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little different now for people that were GoPros or whatever, but for us, that's not my default for
No.
sure.
Yeah. Well, what do you got next on your list, Zach?
Well, that dovetails nicely into what I wanted to go to. This is my second to last one. For my penultimate thing I wish I knew, it's do harder stuff. That's what I wrote down. I wish, probably like the be more fit part, I wish I had pushed myself more
Hmm.
when I was younger, especially. I was just last night hanging out with my wife Kinsey, and I was looking over some hikes that you and I might do this summer. And I was looking at stuff in the Chicago Basin, and there's a peak there called Pigeon Peak, which
Mm.
is class 4. It's kind of hard. I don't think we're gonna do it. We're probably gonna go to Jupiter instead.
Yeah.
But Kinsey asked me, she's like, "Can you do that?" And I said, probably, but I'll tell you what I know for sure. I wish I had done it when I was younger.
Mm.
I wish I had pushed myself a little bit more. Kind of like you, I wish I knew 13ers were out there, and I wish I had realized my ceiling as a hiker was closer to high class 3, low class 4 than the way I limited myself a lot of the time to just walking. I think if you take the totality of all these things, I think if I had fueled my body a little bit more and been more fit, I could have done the things that pushed me. Because now, as a guy in my late 40s, I can still do those things. And this is also me talking to myself now. I should do those things.
Hmm.
Like, I should be leaning into the things that make me a little scared because there's probably going to be a time in 10 or 15 years where I can't do them.
Yeah.
So I need to do them now. But I wish I had been doing more of them before, and I wish I had pushed more. Now, for people that are listening to this that haven't done a lot of 13ers or 14ers yet, you may not be there yet. But once you start hiking more 13ers and 14ers, then don't do what I did and just kind of be comfortable doing the same kind of walks, but push yourself a little bit for harder peaks because I look back in my memories and the peaks I'm most fond of are the ones where I had to push a little bit.
Mm.
The
Man,
wetter
you
horns and to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Harris and stuff like that.
You are very much speaking to me right now. That's, I mean, that might be the best one this whole episode because like I would look back the same way. I mean that and this kind of dovetails into my last one
Oh,
to
what a
some extent too,
segue.
but you didn't even try. My first 14er was a class 3 and I've done very little class 3 since then and I should have. I mean, I was in my
Hmm.
30s and 40s, like that's a prime time to be able to do that. When I'm 60, I don't know if I'll be able to do a class 3. It's, now's the time, but really before would have been the time. That would have been the
Hmm.
best time to do it. So yeah, man, spot on. You're getting some conviction here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was looking at that stuff in the Chicago Basin, Eric, and I was like, there's some, Eolus is a class
The
3. And
Eolus.
I'm
Oh,
like,
yep.
Eric's going to go up that. We're doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I do think that if people feel comfortable with it, they should not leave that stuff on the table.
Great, great, great call.
So,
Spoken as someone with even more wisdom than your 40 plus years that you've got.
maybe more wisdom than sense. So, Eric, that maybe takes us to your last one. What do you have for us?
So my last one, and I have to go in order a little bit for the first three 14ers that I did. So first one was Long's Peak, distinctly class 3.
Mm-hmm.
That one I did with Travis. The second one I did was a year later, also with Travis, which was Mount Princeton,
Mm-hmm.
one of your not favorite 14ers out there, but decidedly class 2. And my third, which was about a month later with another buddy, was Mount Bierstadt, which
Mm-hmm.
is technically class 2, but it's probably like a 2 minus. It's class 1 most of the way. And then at the
Yeah.
very end, you just rock hop. So within the span of, I don't know, 13, 14 months, I experienced the difference between class 3 and the wide breadth of class 2. And
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had known from the beginning just how wide ranging the jump is from class 2 to class 3.
Yeah.
Like that's a massive difference, or it can be a massive difference
Oh,
if
it
you look
can.
at the easier, because if you think of the jump from class 1 to class 2, you're basically going from a trail to rock hopping for the most part.
Yeah.
There's a difference, but it's not that big. The difference between class 2 and class 3 is like staggering in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this relates to what you just talked about because having longs as my first one, like I was able to do it. I don't even have words to describe what I was feeling that time, but we were able to do it. Travis was able to convince me and give me the confidence to get up there. So I had the ability to, and I
Yeah.
wish I would have pushed myself, like you said, to do more class three. But I wish I would have known how big that difference was between class two and class three when I did Long's Peak, because that year between my first and second 14er was pretty excruciating. I was like, am I
Yeah.
ever going to do a 14er again? Am I going to have the courage to go on a mountain ever again? Like that, it was that difficult, but I wish I would have known that class two is kind of a different universe in
Hmm.
comparison to the scrambling and the exposure and the effort required to do a class three. So that's my last one. I wish I would have had a better understanding of that early on.
Yeah. And, I think some of that's the deficit you talked about earlier. We just weren't reading guidebooks, but
Mm,
also you don't know it till you see it. You're absolutely right. The disparity between regular routine class two hiking and a medium class three is pretty big. You go from not using your hands to using your hands. You go
yeah.
from having no worries and no fears to, maybe I don't want to make a mistake here. Um, that's an ocean of difference in terms of your experience of the mountain. So yeah, I think I wish I had known that. Now here I am saying I wish I had also just pushed through it, but I wish I had known those differences because I was unaware of those as a beginner hiker. I
Yeah.
really didn't know how these peaks were classed. Now with some 13ers, you still don't know until you get up there and you're like, oh, look at that. There's a section there that I didn't know was there.
That's right. Well, Zach, do you want to wrap us up with your last one?
I do, and I think I think this is kind of there's a theme to all of mine. This is and maybe to most of yours as well. And it's something that I think about quite a bit. And we've mentioned our age here a few times, but the recognition that time is fleeting and that I think a lot of mine are kind of align with the idea that you should make hay while the sun shines. You should hike what you can while you can. I think there were some days where I got up and didn't want to do it, and I didn't. Or I got halfway and I didn't. Or I got to the summit of a peak and I looked over at another one and I thought, I'll come back later and get that. Did I
Mm,
come back later and get it?
nope.
Not yet.
Nope.
So there's a few of those orphaned peaks and orphaned trips that I wish I had made the most of. There's times where I wish I had gone hiking when I wanted to go hiking and I ended up not. Yeah, making the most of the time that you have while you have it is, and I'm doing that more now, and I'm trying to take advantage of it now, but I wish I had done more of it when I probably was a little bit more able even to do it. So I don't know. How do you feel about that, Eric? Where you at?
Man, I even forget what your last one was, but I thought that was the best one so far, and I think you've trumped that. That's couldn't agree more. And yeah, there are those days when I'm 2:30 a.m. and the alarm clock goes off. I'm like, oh, do I really want to drive to the Swatch again? And the answer is yes, you do want
Yes.
to go again, even though it may be a collegiate 14er, which we've kind of bagged on occasionally, or you may be too tired, or maybe you haven't had your oatmeal yet. But whatever it is, the answer is yes, you do want to go again. You may not have a chance to do it another time. So, man, that's a very philosophical way to tie a tidy bow on this episode, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, we humans aren't very good at doing stuff for the future version of ourselves that will experience regret. We're not
Yeah.
really good at forecasting that feeling. But there are times where I'll start out on a hike and I won't be feeling it anymore. And I'll be like,
Mm,
you're going to appreciate this in 2 hours.
mm,
Future you, or, in 2 months, you're going to have a dream about this place. Or in a few years, you're going to talk about this hike and you're going to remember everything you did on it, even though right now you're not feeling it. Because I know it's weird, but a lot of the time when I hike, I have to like almost fake it till I make it
mm.
sometimes. Now, most of the time I don't. Most of the time I'm ready to go, I'm jacked up. There's times where I've been looking forward to a hike for months and months, and then I get out there and I'm like, I don't want to be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And now I have the wisdom of knowing, no, you do want to be here. You're cold, you're hungry, but just do it because there's going to be a moment where you're going to appreciate it. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And I think I live a lot of my life like that, but now I at least know I have that wisdom, and I wish I had had that earlier. And even now when it gets hard, I wish there was like a sign that would like, like a flashing sign like, Zach, you're gonna appreciate this later. So that's the thing I wish I knew the most.
That's a great one. And sometimes, I mean, you mentioned, you can appreciate this in 2 months or in
Hmm.
2 weeks or in 2 hours. Sometimes it's even less than that. I mean, the
Oh,
initial approach is often in the forest and you don't have a great view of anything. But like you said, sometimes it just takes you an hour or two to get up to tree line or above tree line to where you can finally see these views. And oftentimes it's at that point that I'm thinking, oh man, I was kind of dragging to start, but now this is really getting worth it because I can see
yeah.
this mountain or I can see this ridge or now I can actually see where I'm going. And so yeah, what a great call, Zach. That's a
The,
keeper for sure.
there, I think back to us doing Holy Cross, which we talked about on the podcast.
Yeah.
There was a moment where we were kind of down in the forest there, and but going uphill pretty rapidly, and you and I were moving. We were hauling butt that day. Like we were feeling good. And even with that, there was a moment where we were down in the forest there. I was like, this is hard. Like, why do I do this? The minute we got close to the summit, I was like, all right, yep, now I know why I'm doing this.
That's
And
right.
then from
Yep,
then on, that whole rest of the day, I was just just swimming in that feeling, that bliss. But it's only natural to not feel that way all the time. I mean,
for sure.
you can't be on a serotonin rush all the time. So that's the big one for me. And I'm sure we've talked to some other hikers and they say the same thing.
Yep. Yeah,
Of course,
sometimes even ones that have been doing them longer than we have.
yeah. And we talked last time to Will Erickson, and I think he lives under that wisdom. Like he does not let a good day go undone.
He
He,
doesn't let a bad day go undone. He'll do it
no, he'll
if
freeze
it's
his
10
butt
below,
off.
he'll go.
He'll go. He'll just be miserable.
That's
But he won't be
right.
miserable. He'll still appreciate it.
Uh,
There's
yep.
in philosophy we talk about the difference between happiness and fulfillment, or between joy
Mm,
and fulfillment.
joy. Yep.
Joy is short-lived. Joy
Mm,
is ooh. Joy is what you get when you scroll on social media. Joy is what you get when you laugh. And a good life is filled with a lot of joys. Fulfillment is lasting.
mm.
And I think sometimes fulfillment comes when we push through stuff and when we do the things that we wish that we knew we needed to do at some point when we're cold and rational. So that's what I
I
got.
love it, Professor Simpson. That sounds perfect to me.
Well, I'm glad I could bring what little I've learned about life to the podcast here. Next episode is all my mistakes. Actually, speaking of Eric, since we're
Uh,
there, we have a surprise for the next episode. Who do we have on the podcast coming up next?
we do. We are going to talk again. So our last episode was with our first repeat guest, Will Erickson. We have another repeat set of guests in our next episode. Jennifer and Jerry Roach agreed to come back on and talk with us silly toolboxes and share some of their stories and wisdom. So it's a lot of fun to chat with them, and we can't wait to share that episode with everybody.
Absolutely. Talk about wisdom. I think they've
Yeah,
got a lot that they're gonna lay down for us, and really looking forward to that. Talk to some hiking legends. In the meantime, if people want to get a hold of us, reach out. How do they do so, Eric?
we would love it if our listeners would share what you all wish you knew at the beginning, too. You can share with us at our email address, greensandbluespodcast@gmail.com. And the various sundry ways that you can reach us through our website, greensandbluespodcast.podbean.com, where you can leave us a voicemail from your computer, or you can watch silly videos of us not knowing what we're doing on YouTube, or find tricks and trinkets at our Facebook page. I'm not sure if Facebook actually has tricks and trinkets, but
That's excellent, Eric. We always love hearing from everybody. Emails, voicemails. You create a podcast and you send stuff out into the void, and it's fun when the void speaks back every once in a
yes,
while. So
good call.
we look forward to you listening to some truly great people in our next episode, Jennifer and Jerry Roach. But until then, take care.